昨日イーロン・マスクが CNBC のインタビューをテキサスのギガファクトリーで受けていました。インタビューはロボタクシー、自動運転、オプティマスから中国での競争など彼の考えを聞くことができる貴重な内容でした。ロボタクシーについては6月から数十台で慎重に始めてその後スケールしていくこと、テスラオーナーも将来的にはフリートとして収益を生むことができたり、すでにあるテスラアプリを活用することですぐにサービスが開始できると語っていました。またウェイモの自動運転システムとテスラの違いについても述べていましたし、 BYD のような中国メーカーとは EV 販売のレースはするつもりはないとして、自立性のある製品の新しいビジネスモデルへの注力を明らかにしています。そして政治活動によるブランドダメージについても触れていましたし、多くはモデル Y の切り替えのためで引き続きテスラの需要は強いと言っていました。特に最後のオプティマスの部分はすごくインサイドがあって、今後どこかのポイントでオプティマスが自己改善的に学んでいくことを予想しています。このように個人的にも改めてイーロン自身から語られたことで多くの発見や再確認をすることができましたし、今回も日本語訳を合っているのでぜひ聞いてほしいなと思います。
Thank you. And Elon Musk is here. We're in the lobby of the Gigafactory here in Austin. Last time I was here was your annual meeting a couple of years ago. So thank you for having us back.
Welcome back.
You got a robo-taxi right behind you.
We do?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see it right there. And obviously you've been meeting with the Transportation Secretary.
Yeah.
Are you going to have full autonomous on the roads of Austin by the end of June?
Yes.
You are. What gives you that confidence?
We have cars driving 24/7 with drivers in the cars, and we see essentially no interventions. So we want to be very careful with the first introduction of unsupervised full self-driving, meaning that the car's driving around with no one in it.
Right.
So we're going to
no one behind a driver's.
Well, yes, and sometimes no one in it at all.
Right.
It's going to pick someone up. So the car obviously has to be incredibly safe. So we're just being, we have thousands of cars that are being tested, which is creating some strange situations where we just drive. There's just a bizarre number of Teslas driving past people's houses. They're like, what's going on?
I think we even saw one last night coming from the airport. Yeah, driving at night alone.
So just,
it looked very lonely.
It's just, they look a little lonely.
Yeah.
So it's looking good for Austin next month.
Yeah, some estimates have been that you're only going to have 10 to 12 of them on the road initially. I mean, it's going to be a very small amount. Is that correct?
Yeah, for the first week.
First week. How do you see it ramping up?
Well, we'll have to see how well it does, but I think it's prudent for us to start with a small number, confirm that things are going well, and then scale it up proportionate to how well we see it's doing.
Right, and what's going to be a judge of how well it's doing?
I mean, are there any incidents? Are there any interventions? But we want to deliberately take it slow. I mean, we could start with 1,000 or 10,000 on day one, but I don't think that would be prudent. So we'll start with probably 10 for a week, then increase it to 20, 30, 40. And I think by, say, we'll probably be at 1,000 within a few months. Mm-hmm. And then we'll expand to other cities, so expand to San Francisco, California, Los Angeles, San Antonio.
Is that a real possibility in the not too distant future? I mean, Texas is very different. I don't need to tell you than California when it comes to regulation. They don't really have much here in terms of dealing with autonomous, but it's a different story in California.
Yeah, but California's already approved. Waymo has been doing autonomous driving in California for a while.
Right. But do you need a separate approval, or is it somehow?
Right now, the approval process is very haphazard and sort of state by state and sometimes city by city.
We were talking to the Secretary of Transportation about that very fact a moment ago. Yeah.
Right. So it's going to be important to have a unified set of national regulations for self-driving cars. Otherwise, you're going to get into this weird situation where if you're driving from Maine to New York, you're going to go through 10 different sets of regulations. Cars are going to behave differently. It's not going to make any sense.
No.
So one set of regulations that, just like there is for highway driving, that's what I think makes sense for the country as a whole. But my prediction is that probably by the end of next year, we'll have probably hundreds of thousands, if not
hundreds of thousands,
if not over 1 million Teslas doing self-driving in the U.S.
Those are not okay. what percentage of those are going to be, well, not the cyber cab, you're just talking about on full self-driving, level 4.
Unsupervised full self-driving,
Right.
meaning you do not need to pay attention.
Right. For me, if I own a Tesla and I have the software and the capability of doing it.
Yes.
Right.
But we'll have a model which is kind of like some combination of Uber and Airbnb. So if you're a Tesla owner,
Right.
You'll be able to add or subtract your car to the fleet. So just like in Airbnb, you could like rent out your spare bedroom or rent out your house when you're not using it. And the same thing will be available for Tesla owners. So
Right.
it's a way for Tesla owners to earn revenue. Instead of having your car sit in the parking lot, your car could be earning money.
You and I talked about that a couple of years
Yeah.
ago, which takes me back a bit because, of course, I mean, you remember 2019, you were talking about 2020, the introduction of autonomous, and now you just introduced a fairly somewhat ambitious target. Why do you have the confidence now that in a year, there'll be 1 million available?
Well, by the end of next year, I think.
End of next
so
year.
it's just more
End
like
of
18 months.
26, okay.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's, I mean, these things happen slowly, but then all at once. So, it's Peter Thiel has a book, 0 to 1. Once you have a proof point, once you have it working, then scaling up is, just a matter of time. So once it's working well in Austin, then we'll make sure it works well in other cities. I mean, there are obviously some unique cases like downtown New York, like
Yes.
if you're but that's a highly unusual situation. Most cities in America are like Austin. So
Right. Although you can go on full self-driving right now in New York. I mean, you can obviously have to sit there behind the wheel,
Yes.
and it'll do it.
Oh yeah, no,
It'll navigate the traffic. I've seen it.
yes. No, even a Tesla that you buy right now, and the self-driving just costs $99 a month, will give you autonomous driving anywhere in the country right now. The question is, when is it unsupervised?
Right.
Where that's where we
Right,
want
where
to.
you're sitting in the back, so to speak.
Yes, where you're like asleep, and the car, you wake up at your destination.
Yeah.
In order for that to be the case, we want the autonomous car to be much safer than a car driven by a person.
Are you regulated to have full? Where are you in China right now in terms of your ability to offer that product, though?
Well, we have just get the terminology right.
Understood.
Unsupervised. We have supervised full self-driving, where there's a person in the car. It has approval in China, but whenever we release a new version, we have to get an incremental approval.
Right.
And at times we do have to battle other car companies in China who are trying to stop us from
It's
deploying
incredibly competitive market, isn't it?
China is the most competitive market.
And
yeah.
to the extent BYD, which is neck and neck with you, I think, in the EV race, I think it's fair to say, worldwide, correct?
I don't really follow that.
You don't?
No.
Well, they're willing, again, my question is, they're willing to seemingly offer different levels of autonomy for, I don't want to call it free, but part of the cost of the car. Do you see that as a possibility for you? Or is it always going to be that add-on and therefore that significant revenue stream conceivably?
I don't really think about competitors. I just think about making the product as perfect as possible.
You don't think about competitors at all? But
No. I just think about making, what we want to achieve is the platonic ideal of the perfect product. And as long as you focus on that, you will have a compelling product, obviously.
All right. Well, there's a potentially compelling product right behind you, which is the robo-taxi. So when are we, in 5 years, are they going to be all over the place?
Yes.
They will. You're confident in that?
Yeah.
Talking about Tesla, obviously, takes me to a certain extent to what some would say is the brand damage done by your government service. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Has some pros and cons.
There have been some pros and cons. We sat here 2 years ago upstairs, and you famously said when I asked you about this very subject, I don't care. I'm going to say what I want to say, and so be it. Do you regret that?
No.
No. Why not?
I believe that we want to live in a free society where people are allowed to say what they want to say within reasonable bounds. Like, you can't advocate for the murder of somebody. But free speech is the bedrock of a functioning democracy. That's why it's the First Amendment.
Right. Again, I'll come to Waymo, because even though they only have about 700 cars, they obviously are on the market. They're in Beverly Hills, all over the place.
It's a proof of concept.
They've got 28 cameras. They've got LiDAR and radar. You've had a different approach. Eight to nine cameras and the neural network. Why do you feel that is going to be the equivalent in terms of safety profile?
Oh, I think it'll be better.
Why?
Because the way that the road system is designed is for AI. It's for intelligence, biological neural net, and eyes. That's how the whole road system is designed. So what will actually work best for the road system is artificial intelligence, digital neural nets, and cameras. And we also have the microphones so the car can hear emergency vehicles and that kind of thing.
Right. You are going to have the microphones to hear the
you need to hear.
That was a question. Right. You need to hear a fire engine or a police car.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
But that's how the whole road system is designed. It's not designed for shooting lasers out of your eyes. And what we found is that when you have multiple sensors, and they tend to get confused. So do you believe the camera or do you believe the LiDAR? Mm-hmm. And if you get confused, that's where that's what can lead to accidents. So we used to have, for example, radar in the car, but we found that the radar and the camera would sometimes disagree, and then you don't know which one to believe.
So it wasn't about expense. It was just about...
No.
Yeah. Are you seeing the data
In fact, we turned off the radars in the cars.
You turned off the radar. Yeah. So, I mean, are you comfortable right now? If I were to say to you, all right, let's go, you think that you're there in terms of the safety profile you're seeing right now?
Yeah, we could take a ride today if you want. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to take a ride with you anytime you want, wherever you want. Logistics capability to operate sort of a ride-hailing fleet at scale, because you mentioned, obviously, let's call it the end of 26. Are you going to have an app? Are you there? Do you have that ability?
I think we can figure out an app. Somebody tells me.
You're not worried about it?
Well, Tesla already has an app.
Yeah, I know. But so is there going to be a ride-hailing app you'll introduce?
How to write an app, that's really not the...
It's not too hard?
No.
XAI can probably do it for you in like an hour?
Tesla can write apps just fine.
Do you ever consider licensing the technology at some point?
Yes, there are a number of major automakers that have talked to us about licensing self-driving, and we're very much open to that. I think the more we demonstrate the capability of self-driving, the more that they will want to license it, and we're happy to help.
Back to the safety profile, because it's going to obviously be something a key focus. Business Insider, take it for what you want, but I saw this over the weekend. They did a test between Waymo and Tesla. And they weren't critical at all.
Business Insider is not a real publication.
No, but it did seem...
They're a fake...
Regardless of whether we want to have a debate about their journalistic integrity, which I don't. The test itself, let me just share it with you and get your reaction, which was the Waymo, ultimately, they said, proved better, in part only because it avoided, with its geofencing, one very difficult intersection that the Tesla chose to go through. It stopped at a red light, but then it went through the red light. What's your reaction?
Look, I'm not going to comment on some Business Insider article.
But is that a concern at all? Because in a way, there's no geofencing, so it's like it's happy to go on the highways in a way that perhaps a Waymo's not. I guess my question is that a concern at all for you in terms of it encountering things that are still sort of a crucial test and perhaps it fails?
No, first of all, that actually should have been a test of supervised self-driving, supervised self-driving, not unsupervised self-driving. So the assumption there is that you have a person who is going to take over.
Right.
So their test made no sense.
Okay.
When we deploy the cars in Austin, we are actually going to deploy it not to the entire Austin region, but only to the parts of Austin that we consider to be the safest. So we will geofence it.
You will?
Yeah, of course.
Right.
It's not going to take intersections unless we are highly confident it's going to do well with that intersection. It'll just take a route around that intersection.
But there won't be a safety driver in the car.
Correct.
Right. The car, there's not going to be somebody sitting there.
Right.
What is giving you confidence in the automotive business, or is it all about robo-taxis, as you've been saying, and people can't quite see them behind me, the robots as well?
Well, really, the only things that matter in the long term are autonomy and Optimus. Those overwhelmingly dominate the future financial success of the company. As for Q1, we had a global factory changeover for the Model Y. So there's a new version of the Model Y that came out, which required a factory shutdown across the world. Model Y is the #1 selling car of any kind on Earth.
Number one in the world.
Number one in the world.
Right? I watched your presentation during your last, right here, I think, during your last earnings.
Right. Yeah. It's number one selling car in the world. So, you know, we can't make cars if the factories are retooling. So the right time to retool is the first quarter, since generally that's when the least demand occurs. But we've seen a major rebound in demand at this point. I feel comfortable.
You
with
have
it.
seen a major rebound in demand.
Yeah.
You really believe you have seen that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, for most people,
right?
I mean, when you buy a product, I mean, how much do you care about the political views of the CEO, or do you even know what they are?
Why doesn't Tesla buy Uber?
There's no need because we have a large number of cars. We have millions of cars that will be able to operate autonomously, and I should say that it's a combination of a Tesla-owned fleet and also enabling Tesla owners to be able to add or subtract their car to the fleet, yes, so that existing Tesla owners will be able to earn money by adding their car to the fleet for autonomous use. And I think it's maybe possible for Tesla owners to make more in allowing their car to be added to
used, which you discussed,
the self-driving fleet, that then they cost them in the lease.
Right.
And that's why I'd say consider it sort of a business model that's similar to some combination of Airbnb and Uber. Just like Airbnb, you can rent out your spare bedroom or your house if you're not using it, and make money on it. And that's what we expect Tesla customers to be able to do.
Right. And as this scales up, you said earlier, you feel like you have the logistics ability and the ability to create the app as well, of course, and anything else around that needs to occur.
Yeah, I don't think we're missing anything. Tesla has all the ingredients necessary to offer a vast self-driving fleet overnight.
Yeah. While I'm on the subject of deals, you'd indicated that you would like more control at Tesla.
Yes. I mean, really just enough control to not get ousted by activist investors at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So that's what I've said is like something.
You've said that before.
Yeah, no, I've said there's nothing new, which is that around the sort of 25% level, you know, that means I can certainly be thrown out if I go crazy.
Right.
But it really requires, you know, a lot. You know, like that's the number that I feel comfortable at, because that's where I have some control, but not so much control that I can't be thrown out.
Right. At that time when millions of these things are coming off of a line like we just saw with cars. Yeah. They're going to be fully autonomous. They're going to come off, and the way you've described it, they're going to be able to come in my house, and I'm going to be able to say, all right, do the dishes. Now I need you to walk the dog.
Absolutely.
Hold the baby.
In fact, you really won't even need to. It'll figure out what you probably want and do what you probably want without you even having to ask.
How many GPUs are you going to need for that?
Well, quite a few GPUs. We do have our own program called Dojo for training, which I think will be helpful.
Right now it's contributing about 5% towards self-driving, right?
Yeah. So.
Is that the one in New York State?
Dojo? Yeah, it's in New York. So, but we expect to still buy a lot of GPUs from NVIDIA, some from AMD, and maybe from others. And as long as NVIDIA is better than what we make, we'll keep buying from NVIDIA.
Is that the case right now?
It is, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're obviously buying them for XAI, the Memphis.
Big time.
Big time, right?
Yeah, XAI is building the most powerful. Well, we have the most powerful. I think we have the most powerful training cluster in the world right now, which is over 200,000 GPUs training coherently. You're
at 200,000 already now.
Yes.
There in Memphis, that facility that you
yes.
put together. Okay.
Yes.
And where are you going?
And we'll be at the million GPU level in the location just near Memphis.
Wait, a million GPUs for a new location, or 800,000 additional GPUs?
A million of the next generation GPUs.
So Blackwell.
Well, yeah.
You said recently tens of billions of robots, but that's decades away.
At least 1 decade away.
It's got to be more than that.
It's going to grow very fast.
Why do you think that?
I think humanoid robots will be the biggest product ever. The demand will be insatiable.
You said that
everyone's going to want one. It's like basically who wouldn't want their own personal C-3PO R2-D2?
No,
everyone's going to want one.
You've said that, and your goal. You've also said is to produce 1 million robots. I think by 2030. That's what I had you on the record as saying.
I think that's a reasonable target.
And then start towards sustainable abundance, which you can get into. But I wonder. We've been talking about autonomous and how long it takes to train the automobile to be able to be the equivalent of or exceed human capabilities. But what about these robots? To the extent that how much training are they going to need to actually be able to do various different types of tasks? Isn't that something that's going to take a long time? Yeah.
It's going to take a lot of compute resources, and it'll take time. I think there's certain threshold breakthroughs that we think we can achieve, where if Optimus can watch videos, YouTube videos or how-to videos or whatever, and based on that video, just like a human can, learn how to do that thing, then you really have task extensibility that is dramatic. Because then it can learn anything very quickly. So I think we'll get there in the next.
We're not there yet, though.
We're not there yet.
You're relying on a significant uptick in terms of learning and training.
Yeah, no, that's why I'm calling it a very significant threshold. Would be the ability to learn from watching a video. Just so
right.
But at the point
as opposed to watching a human, right? Or having a human sort of train it right now with a task.
I mean. Right now, we're training Optimus to do like primitive tasks where a human in a kind of what's called a mocap suit is and sort of cameras on the head is moving in the way that the robot would move to say pick up an object or open a door or the basic tasks, throw a ball, dance, and we need to. I think that's needed to sort of bootstrap the intelligence so you can have the basic functions. Then where I think it gets very interesting and very much like humans is that you want the robot to self-play. Right. So you say, how does a child learn? Well, a child has toys, and a child plays with the toys, plays with the blocks, at some point figures out how to put the triangle in the triangle hole and the circle in the circle hole. By doing it over and over again, and this self-play. Once you have a lot of robots, you can do this self-play, which is that you just put the robot in a room with toys, and have the robot literally have the robot play with toys,
and it will learn.
Yeah. And you have to have a reward function. Say like, okay, the goal of the robot is to put that classic child's toy. You put the circle in the circle hole, the square in the square hole, triangle in triangle hole, and keep doing it until it works. And the reward function is succeeding.
And there are no advances needed to accomplish that now? I mean, no advances in AI or just compute and things of that nature that can happen?
There are some advances needed, but I don't think these are insurmountable. I think we can solve these things in the next few years.